What's going on, vinyl community? Dom, back with you once again, seeking a thread, as always. I wanted to get back quickly because I've been going through my sort of 80s and 90s indie rock, noise rock, whatever you want to call it. I've been going through all of my records, really. Selling some stuff, making some room, and getting reacquainted with some things. I've been thinking about how my indie rock is now basically classic rock. And simultaneously I've been watching some videos from, Noted Archive, Michael, and Stunty, talking about some of their best albums in the 90s. I'm not going to rank these, or these aren't even ranked in any way. These are just sort of some stuff that I don't think has been shown, and some records pretty near and dear to me, and some bands pretty near and dear to me from the 80s and 90s. I'm going to do sort of like a 90s, 2000s, sort of the next decade or decades after, as a part two to this. Part of the music I would sort of dig deeper into would be this kind of stuff. When I was trying to figure out about, there's stuff that's not being played on the radio, and I would start digging into some of these. This would be the kind of bands I would start discovering. Of course, there was punk, which is another thing I was discovering too. But this is more of the sort of the indie, and this is sort of in no order. It's all over the place. Let's talk about it. Let's get into it. Thanks again, everyone, for watching and commenting and whatnot. I've got much more to come. This is Rodan, out of Louisville, as it's known. Their one and only proper album. There would be some posthumous releases, which are interesting. A bunch of bands spawned from Rodan. This is on Quarter Stick Records, by the way. Jason Noble and Jeff Muller formed Shipping News. Tara Jean O'Neill had her own solo records. You had Rachel's. You had Sonora Pine. All bands that would come out of this great record, Rusty. And this is the original on Quarter Stick. Funny story is I used to have a copy of this, and I sold it back in my early collection. And over the last, I think it was a couple of years ago, I rebought it. Big mistake. And I have the reissues of the first two June 44 records too. Speaking about Louisville records. Here's like the first great Sebadoh record, Sebadoh 3, Lou Barlow. On the Homestead label, a label I own many records of. Love that label. Perhaps a label feature. That would be a long one, I think. Jason Lowenstein, Eric Gaffney, Lou Barlow. This is the record that he sort of was going all over Jay Mascis, really taking him to task. It's not the first Sebadoh, but it is the first, maybe like the first proper one. You had the sort of not the Centradoh, but the Freed Weed and all that stuff before this. This is from 1991, is that right? But it was late 80s in any case. Sebadoh 3. Fantastic. Here's another band that is not often discussed. Blonde Redhead. This is the only record I have, and they continue. I don't know what their status is right now. This is on Touch and Go from 97. It's just Fate Can Be just as good. I love it was, let's see what sticker this is, $8.97 new price, but then I bought it for $5. Still in the shrink. This is before they were getting more into sort of more like heady, sort of dark pop. This is sort of like Sonic Youth styled guitar stuff. Great band, trio. I would love to pick up some more of their records when I get a chance. Alright, so coming up is another all-time favorite band primarily on the Trans Syndicate label out of Texas, right? It is Bedhead. I have lots of Bedhead. And the first album. The first album is the one I discovered first. Huge fan of the Kadane brothers and their other band, The New Year. I have all their records. It's just guitar music, indie rock kind of, really done in a deliberate style, and all about tone and texture and beauty. I love Matt Kadane's vocals and Bubba Kadane. And these are all the original pressings. Numerous Group did a box set of this band, which totally shocked me. I was like, wow. This does have an insert. Yeah. This is what Fun Life was. You know, all very stark covers, stark photographs. Matt, I've gotten actually friendly with, and he lives here in the area. I'm going to link to an interview I did for a couple of years ago. I did with Matt Kadane from Bedhead and New Year. It was done just after their last New Year album, Snow, was released. I'll link to that interview. We did that for WRFI Radio, where I DJ and work. Here's Transaction de Novo, original press on Touch and Go. Or, no, Trance. Yeah, out of Austin, Texas. That's where they're originally from. And the other Trans Syndicate record, Beheaded, maybe their most sparse. You'll hear, I'll put the interview, you'll hear sort of like where they were coming from on these different records. And this is the EP where they cover Joy Division, Disorder. This is just called the 4-song EP. I love Bedhead and I love the New Year. This is an important band, really important. I feel like not everyone knows them, but the people who know Kadanes and their bands are all really passionate about them, just like me. They hit a certain tone and a certain vibe and some gorgeous songs. This is a more recent pressing of Royal Trux's Twin Infinitives on Drag City. This is a weird band. Every record sort of seems to be from a different perspective. Lo-fi, experimental, out, hiss, lots of hiss. Good record though. All-time favorite band, Mission of Burma. This is Versus on Ace of Hearts out of the Boston area. What a cover! What a record! The first EP is amazing. I love their more recent records too. This is a first press on, like I said, Ace of Hearts. With that inner sleeve there. Clint Conley, Roger Miller, and Peter Prescott. And Peter Prescott, of course, would start his own side band, the Volcano Sons. Volcano Sons, the first album, Bright Orange Years. This is also incredible. But this album is just a landmark Versus in sort of guitar sound and just frenetic and angsty and angular and just a lot of tension and great songs. This has Martin Swope is credited with tape manipulations and loops and percussions as well, which you can hear on some of it. But what makes this band go is Clint Conley, Roger Miller, Peter Prescott. Absolutely love Mission of Burma. And I love the Volcano Sons too. Some great records. These are on Homestead as well. One band I own more records than probably any other is Yola Tango. This is the deluxe edition of Extra Painful, probably the first record I discovered from them from 1994. They do it all. Let's just say that. I think Stunty mentioned Unrest. This is Imperial FFR. I had this on CD for forever, and similar to Rodan, I didn't sell that, but I bought this over the last few years. It's got the original Teen Beat, looks like, I think, insert in here. Actually, no, this is on the Ajax label, not on Teen Beat. I don't know what the story is. It's originally on Teen Beat, and I forget what this is. It does say Teen Beat on the labels. Manufactured by Ajax. In any case, great band, Mark Robinson, and just I love their perspective on rock songs. I love sort of it feels a little bit different. There's a poppiness to it, but left of center. This is a great band. I have a few of their records as well. Here's something different. This is originally released in 1995. This is the sixth, a Magnetic Fields, or a side project, essentially, of Stephen Merritt. It was originally released on the London label as like a box set, like a 7-inch box set. He wanted it to feel like they were all singles. And it is. This is the first time, this came out 3 years ago maybe, the first time I was an LP. This is a record I heard so many times. Listen to what you have on here. It's basically Stephen Merritt, where am I? Writing all the songs with different vocalists. You have Barbara Manning from 20th Day, you have Stephen Merritt, of course, Mary Timony from Helium, Dean Wareham of Galaxy 500, Mitch Easter, the producer, Matt, and also those other guys, you know. Mac McCobb, Superchunk, Georgia Hubley, Bill Tango, Lou Barlow, Amelia Fletcher, Robert Scott of The Clean and the Bats, and Mark Robinson, another Mark Robinson, and Chris Knox of Tall Dwarfs. This is a great LP, really catchy songs, sort of, they sound like Magnetic Field songs, but with just different vocalists. Wow, this is a captured tracks issue of this. I don't know if this is in print as an LP anymore, but the box set, the original box set was really expensive. Here's a great guitar band out of North Carolina, Polvo. I didn't have these original records, so I picked up these merge reissues on like this fancy color. And great guitar band, great songs, similar to the Mission of Burma style. Their other record, Corcoran Secret, is also really good. And Exploded Drawing on Touch and Go. I love that record. If you don't know Polvo, you like, you know, Hot Snakes-esque or, Burma, good guitar band, Polvo. So, this next one is, I've said, like, along with Yo La Tengo, one of the earliest sort of indie bands I discovered, and probably still one of my favorite bands of all time, is The Pavement. I remember being in high school and discovering Slanted Enchanted. You know, it was a big time. This is now, it's interesting. This is the EP collection called Westing by Musket and Sexton on Drag City, which I don't know if it's in print right now. This is an original press of that, but if you know anything about Drag City, they tend to just keep stuff in print. Now, I don't have any original pressings of the Pavement records. I had some live albums that I'm about to sell, actually, that came out as bonus material, Record Store Day, and in any case, I don't have any of the albums, because when I was buying Pavement, I had all the CDs. I have the deluxe CDs that have all the outtakes on, which are amazing. I really would love to collect the original pressings of these. I thought maybe they'd be cheap, but they are not. They are not. One of these days I'll try to pick them off one at a time. It's just an important band to me. I know the records really well. Everybody knows Pavement, I think. This is great, by the way. And I do have a 45 of their second single. I don't have the first single. Demolition J-Plot is the single I have. I have that, original press of that. This includes some of their great... This is like their most lo-fi and scrappy, which are what was compiled on the EPs. This is originally from '93 on Drag City. So, if anyone wants to sell their original Domino or Matador original pressings of Pavement, let me know. Here's a great band, another band I discovered early, and they get mentioned a lot as super big. I'm going to show all their records. Galaxy 500. A band that's influenced many. These are all the original presses. Rough Trade. This is on Music. This is from, 91? No. 1990, I think. Recorded and engineered by Kramer, Noise, New York. Great covers, simple. This is a Rough Trade US copy. Then we have On Fire. A lot of people call this their best. I mean, they're all equally good to me. That's kind of why I'm showing all of them. This is another Rough Trade original US. I love the covers. They sort of almost have like a 60s vibe to them. Of course, this would spawn Luna, Dean Wareham doing Luna, who I've seen a few times, Luna. And I do like Luna as well. And Damon and Naomi, who are a couple and performing still, I think, doing their own music. And then Today. This is my original press of Today on a different label here in the US, Aurora. This is excellent. They always cover band, usually do a couple of covers too. This has got Don't Let Her Youth Go to Waste, Parking Lot, Tugboat. You know, they spawned the slowcore thing, I guess. It's just very direct, very simple, just very, you know, open chords, just a lot of space. You know, Dean Worm's voice is pretty singular. You know, if it was anyone else, I don't know if this band would have worked, but Dean Worm and the simplicity of the songs and all of the reverb and stuff, quite lovely. Great band. Here's a band that doesn't get just talked about enough, I think. And by the way, you're hopefully hearing some sound samples of some songs. I'm trying to do that. 11th, Dream Day. This is a band that still is in some kind of still together. They've been releasing records pretty consistently. This is their very first, it's technically an EP, I believe, on the Fan Club label from '86. Doug McCombs would be in Tortoise. Rick Rizzo, the guitar and vocalist. Janet Beveridge Bean, drums, vocals. Baird Fiji, guitar, out of Chicago. What a great guitar sound. We're talking about guitar tone a bit. I think these are pretty cheap. I know I bought this for $4 here at Angry Mom, you know, years ago. I don't know if it's still cheap, but they shouldn't be much. They would have signed to Atlantic, and I like those records too. Beat, particularly. And then there's stuff with Thrill Jockey's really solid too. But this first EP, it rips. Really great tone. Just relentless. There on the back. I love Dream Day. Alright, here's a band that I've mentioned a little bit in passing. I'm going to talk a little bit about, when I talk about this next record, about my time working for WIA Distribution, Warner Music Group. From 2000 to 2010, I was in the music industry. I started at a label called Jet Set in Manhattan. I was heavily involved there as an intern first, and then working as a radio promoter. And then after that, I started working for WIA Distribution for Warner Music Group, which handled distribution for Atlantic, Warner Brothers, Rhino, a whole bunch of labels, and then a whole slew of independent labels through a syndicate called Alternative Distribution Alliance. Now, I was able to get a lot of records and a lot of, mainly CDs, but records too. I started getting records from promotional, you know, people, you get, as you were working records, you get things handed out to you, CDs mainly, but there'd be records sometimes. However, we had access to a thing called the employee ordering system, and essentially we could order anything in the Warner Music Group catalog, and that included all of the independent labels through the Alternative Distribution Alliance, which include things like Sub Pop, Matador, Merge Records, all the big indies. Now the cool thing was that CDs were like $2 and records were $1.50. Sealed new records just from the stock. Now what they would do is they would decommercialize them or cut them. So I scored tons of, I was ordering like every month. I think I was ordering a limit. I think you could only order 30 pieces. I'll put an insert. I still find the order form. I'll put an insert of here of the order form. And it was great. I scored so many. I just would try stuff. I found out about the OCs doing that. I tried their first album on their album on Tom Lab. Bought it for $1.67 with tax. And this band, Duster. I bought all of the 7 inches and the LPs originals on Up Records for $1.50 through the employee program, but they're all cut. They all have cuts. And I still have plenty of records that have this cut. The old slash through the barcode. But this album is a pretty expensive album now, which when I found out, it really surprised me. I was like, who people care about Duster? I love them. And yeah, they got discovered in a big way. And now these records for Up are insane. 2 LPs and a 12-inch. I ordered all from this system. plus the 7 inches. I'm glad I did. I mean, getting them for that price, I was just surprised that this band, like no one else was talking about this band at the time. I wasn't like an active, like hardcore fan, but I love the space and atmosphere and sort of lo-fi psychedelia of these records. This is Stratosphere, first album. We have an LP after it's called Contemporary Movement in this 1975 EP. This is a great band. They came back recently and made a new record, which I showed in the cat video. Here's a really important Pacific Northwest band, Built to Spill, a band I collect pretty heavily. I have a lot of 7 inches. I have just about all the albums, I believe. Another great guitar band that influenced many. This is the first album I discovered. There's Nothing Wrong with Love. This sort of got me going on them. This isn't the first. It's an up reissue. I should talk more about Built to Spill sometime. I love them. And the last record I'll show is by, and I have a few of these records. I have almost all their CDs and their records too. Another Texas band, American Analog Set. This was on, Emperor Jones, I think. This is an original press. First on Emperor Jones and Trance, actually. This is from '95, I believe it is. And they do like a crowdy, repetitive motoric style. But with sort of really beautiful organs and, they're not so much a guitar band. They're more about sort of a tortoise thing to them. You hear lots of soft percussion and xylophone and piano and guitar too. They they have a record called No by Heart where they almost went pop in a sense. Released on September 11, 2001. That's a great record. Has some really great songs on it, but no one really picked up on it because of that date. But this is their first album, From Our Living Room to Yours. I'm jumping around a little bit. They also did some records, Tiger Style, which I love those. This is a good band. I don't know how many people remember this band, but I do. And these, with a lot of these indie bands that people may have forgotten about, I always go back to look because a lot of the stuff I have on CD. I'm like, I want to start buying the records, thinking no one will care and they'll be cheap, but they're not because there just weren't that many made, and the fans who have them aren't selling them. So these aren't that easy to get, unfortunately. So that's just some of what I wanted to show for my indie classic rock. I'm going to do stuff that's sort of late 90s and 2000s and after that I think is sort of worth showing. That's all I have. I hope everyone is doing hunky-dory.